Nikki Haley recently spoke to some high school students. I wonder if she said it's easier than ever to make snarky remarks or take joy in opponents' mistakes or misfortunes.
It's easier than ever to make snarky remarks or take joy in opponents' mistakes or misfortunes. Raise your hand if you've ever posted anything online to quote-unquote own the libs. I know it's fun and that it can feel good. But step back and think about what you're accomplishing when you do this. Are you persuading anyone? Who are you persuading?
Yeah, she's right. Shutting down someone persuades no one. Still, does that matter? Mocking Dana's dog just feels good. How can I stop? But if you go online right now, you're going to find two ugly sides to everything. Yet if you decide to disarm, will the other side actually follow? Not if they read the New York Times, where an op-ed today says, if you want to beat Trump, centrism is not the answer. Urging Times readers to veer left is like asking Trump to use bigger capital letters. Fact is, social media is getting way worse. On Twitter, blue-check celebrities just attacked one of their own, actor Mark Duplass, for just complimenting Ben Shapiro. Right now, the left seeks scalps by mobbing people online for speech and ideas. It's digital warfare unleashed. And so, now you see the right fighting back. But there's a debate among that side. Do you take the high ground when you're attacked, or do you return fire? It's mutually assured destruction. You smear me, I smear you, so maybe let's stop smearing each other. But at some point, we need to fire Twitter from our lives. It's now a tool of vengeance, employed by mobs for cheap thrills. So, Jack, you're the CEO, and your company is now nothing more than an online supermarket for people selling torches and pitchforks? It's disgusting. Why not give it a rest for a day? Shut it down. Look for a solution. As loud as Twitter can be, silence can be louder and more eloquent. Thoughtful, Dana?
Well, it was very thoughtful. I love Nikki Haley's speech, but I just had this visual of President Trump calling Jack Dorsey into the cabinet room of the White House and reaching across the desk and saying, "You're fired."
But you know what? It's like
remarkable.
There are solutions to this. I think it's easy for Nikki Haley to tell these kids not to do it because she's not there every day. But there is a way to deal with this. I think that they should let everybody have a chance to reset Twitter. Just get rid of everything. Kennedy.
And that's some of the advice you're given, especially, you know, if you've got tweets from 2008, 2009 that you've completely forgotten about, like the Guardians of the Galaxy director who wrote some stupid stuff and even went on Twitter a few years later saying, hey, sorry about that stupid stuff. I really shouldn't have written that. I was going through a phase. And then it was unearthed and he was fired. And the question is, how many scalps will it take for either side to be happy? Because they're both doing it, and it is pretty aggressive, and there is something to be said for relying on a rational argument, because we've gotten to a point of such intense emotionalism that people no longer remember how to make an argument. All they know how to do is punch back, and you have joggers defecating in public.
Oh, yes. I only did that once, Kennedy. Why bring it up on TV? What do you think, Jason? Is this unstoppable? Is the genie out of the barn?
Well, in Europe, they're actually dealing with the right to be forgotten. You know,
I love that.
Can you go to a place and say, you know what, I get to erase that part? And what I think we as a society, on a serious note, really have to think about is how do we deal with minors? Because you got 12 and 13-year-olds signing user agreements to go ahead and be out there and post all these photos. How is it that somebody hasn't sued the living daylights out of all these social media companies and won for accepting a 12-year-old's, you know, use of the rights and posting up all those photos? And I think when you're making a decision and you're underage, you can really have to live with that the rest of your life. Is that going to affect you in your job and everything else? There's some big questions society has to answer. And
I
that's
think,
one
by
of
the
them.
way, I have a personal experience here to share, but I think you're onto something. Where a young man came to me for a job recommendation. I recommended him for a job. He goes to the person that I recommended him to. Then the person calls me several days later and says, have you ever seen this guy's Twitter and social media account?
Did you say I don't even know how?
Really? Because it's like a sewer. The guy, and we had this week one of the Milwaukee Brewers pitchers.
Yeah.
Yes.
He got in trouble because he was
17 or
when
so,
he was
yeah.
a kid, 17 in Maryland. He's making all these horrible racial comments. Well, guess what? Somebody digs it up now. He's an all-star. And boom, it's a big problem.
Everybody's digging up stuff on everybody else. Shouldn't we just declare amnesty?
But this is different than, I think, the argument that you guys were making about the political back and forth. I mean, you're smearing.
I'm for both. I'm more. The political stuff doesn't bother me as much as the scalping. Like,
Well,
I want to get Juan fired by finding something he said.
Yeah, but the thing is that bullying like that, to Nikki Haley's point, is not persuasive. In other words, you can say, hey, you know what? I'm smarter than Juan. I had a better comeback than Juan. But does it really persuade anybody that, oh, yeah, I'm going to change the way I think? You know, Greg made such an interesting argument. I was thinking about this, but now I'm thinking about that. No, it just, like, makes people, as Nikki Haley said, dig in their heels and become angry.
I think that is embodied in the partisanship of the country today, or the polarization, because the numbers are actually, you know how you were doing this?
Yeah.
I think they're remarkably steady. I think that everyone has basically gone to their side.
Yeah.
And there's only about 9% of independent voters left.
So when you go like this, can I come over? Yeah. Give me a back rub? Or when you smear, I get the Smucker's jelly.
But are they the ones in charge? Are the independents the ones who decide? Because
Depends
the
on how
ones
close
who
the election
are
is.
really not committed to either side, because both sides are so dug in.
I don't know,
And,
like,
and if Republicans lose, are they going to be as upset as Democrats?
I remember when Ann Coulter, a few years ago, maybe it was in the 2012 presidential election, she said, who cares about the independents? Just try to turn your base out. And I, you know, of course, the RNC was like, oh, my gosh, if we do that, we won't win. They did it in 2012, but they did in 2016, but with two very different candidates. So I don't know.
I don't know either.